Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. It's good to have you with us. We are broadcasting from the Concierge Landscape Studios. We're brought to you by Extreme Exteriors. Before we get back into our story, the story we've been talking about, a board president who's kind of interesting in his tactics, being kind of covert in being very intimidating because he wore his sheriff's uniform and insisted on wearing that at every meeting he was dealing with other board members and the homeowners.
At every board meeting and every homeowner meeting, yeah.
That's
interesting,
right.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been disclosed whether or not his gun was with him.
They didn't say that he was armed.
I wouldn't doubt it, but we don't know.
We don't know.
But anyway, before we do get back into that story, though, I would like to let our listeners know here in the first hour, we've got a great resource for you. It is a bi-monthly newsletter called What's New. A lot of the topics we cover here on the radio show is covered in further detail in this newsletter. It's yours free for the asking. Give us a call at New Concepts during the week. Our number 952-922-2500. Ask for Courtney, and she'll make sure that you start getting your free subscription. We have over 18,000 subscribers now. You can get that sent by mail or electronically. Again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about this story, Intimidation, the sincerest form of battery. And the gentleman who became the ex-president, his name was Mr. Fulmer. Mm-hmm. And he was also a sheriff. Mm-hmm. And so some of the homeowners got upset, and they ended up
well, they complained to the sheriff's department that Mr. Fulmer was intimidating and kind of bullying people because he would always wear his uniform, apparently, to all the meetings.
And so there's nothing that says where he said that where he was threatening with any authority that he had as a sheriff, but just the
fact.
And
you know
the
what?
presence.
It sounds like
uniform.
That it wasn't just the uniform, though, either. It sounds like the guy's personality was very overbearing, that he had his own agenda, that he wasn't necessarily letting other people have input into what was going on. Don't you think that was? I mean, if it was just the matter of the uniform, I'd think that would have been easily resolved. But there was more to it. It was his personality and his way of operating.
You're right. A person in a uniform does not need to be an intimidating person.
Yeah, I wouldn't think.
But a person certainly could use that in a very subliminal way,
right.
I guess.
That's right.
And I think that's what was clearly happening here, don't you?
I do think that. So Sheriff Fraley...
Fraley, the other
responded
colleague,
by checking on the uniform policy at the correctional institution where John Fulmer worked, and he attended at the request of some board or of some members. It sounds like one of the homeowner meetings to just keep the peace.
Yes,
they were worried that things were going to get volatile.
or just to watch things to see if that was okay. And it's interesting that the real complaint came from Mr. Fulmer, who said he felt he was wrongfully treated, and he was being intimidated.
That's right.
By these folks.
That's right.
Kind of a turn of events.
Yeah.
Maybe projecting is going on here, you know?
Maybe. Maybe.
What I wanted us to talk about a little bit, Tony, is the aspect of the kind of responsibility that people with authority have. And even though folks don't normally think of it, someone even on the board of directors for a homeowner association certainly has a degree of authority.
That's right.
That they carry with them.
Well, they're elected to the position, so they feel like they're speaking, or they should feel like they're speaking for the members, and that they have the authority to do that.
And don't you think? I mean, and over the years, not all of the reasons, but some of the reasons, sometime that people will stay on being a board member for year after year after year is because they kind of get addicted to that a little bit of authority that they're able to weld around the property, because they may not have it anywhere else in their life, or they.
We have seen that characteristic.
Yes. By far, that's not the norm, not at all. But that does happen. And I guess we wanted to talk, if you are on a board of directors for a homeowners association, you have a responsibility, and one of those chief responsibilities, I think, in my mind, I don't know if you agree with this, Tony, is to be accessible. If the homeowner board of directors needs to try and call and gather information and feedback and comments from homeowners in the association, they need to be accessible if they're going to get that information. Otherwise, how do they know?
Are you saying that they need to listen? They need to make sure their ears are open. You don't mean necessarily that they should be available at the drop of a hat at any moment.
No, not
accessibility.
Not at the drop of a hat, but they do have to have They may have to have additional accessibility and being available that others wouldn't
because of their office.
Because of that office.
That's a very good point. Yep.
But accessibility to me is more than that. It also comes down to a presence and whether or not you show that you are open and welcoming to ideas and feedback.
That's right. I think that ties in. I think one of the most important characteristics of a board member is that you listen to other people and that you invite feedback from other people. Make sure everyone at the board meeting on the board is heard and their opinion is heard. You taught me this, Gene. We've seen this dynamic a lot where there's one or two very strong personalities and there may be one or two very meek personalities on the board. And those meek personalities are also a problem, aren't they? Because if they don't speak up and they don't let their opinion be known, then they may not be heard and they may be resentful and they may be complaining behind the back of the board. So it's important for someone to say, I would like to hear from you, Mr. Meek and Mild. Please tell us what you think.
Oh, I agree. And in this case, Mr. Fulmer, who's the board president, I think that is specifically one of his roles and responsibilities.
It should have been. That's right.
Being the leader of this board of directors for this homeowner association is to make sure that if he only heard from two of the other directors, make sure that he hears from the others that haven't yet spoke.
Yep.
And, and it really doesn't matter what the individual or Mr. Fulmer thinks, because perception is everything. Perception on whether or not someone thinks that someone's intimidating. I know that there are board members who will say, well, if so-and-so hasn't spoken up, that's their problem. It's not mine. Well, I'm sorry. It is your problem, too.
Yeah,
because you are to make sure that you are calling the information, the feedback from all of your directors, and so that you can make a decision that's responsible and one that you all live with. And then if you are doing it with a majority of the homeowners in mind, you're not going to have any real major upset. I mean, the idea of being outvoted by the members of the association, that's a pretty drastic thing.
It is, especially since we know how hard it is to get people voted onto the board because of kind of lack of interest. If a homeowners association has taken the time and trouble to show up and vote you out, you got to stop and take a look at what you're doing.
You have really done some egregious things.
I think you have.
Yeah. And so there was, this, I called it sort of a covert act of omission. I think it was kind of, in some ways, sort of a lying on Mr. Fulmer's part, because, he's feigning ignorance as if his sheriff's uniform doesn't carry any other
he's
authority.
acting like he doesn't see the problem.
Oh, I don't know. Yes, it's just me. I think that is just wrong.
Yeah.
And, again, a board member just has responsibility to make sure you're getting information and feedback from homeowners.
And the main reason being, you're speaking for all the homeowners. You're not just speaking for yourself. You're not just speaking for the neighbor you like. You're speaking for everyone. So your concern is not just that your driveway gets seal coating. You need to look at the benefit to the entire community of what your plans are and how you spend the money. So it's your job as a leader to make sure you are keeping in mind the best benefit for the community.
And what I like here is I like the example that we have of the others in the homeowner association and the others on the board who were proactive and I think did the right thing here.
Yep.
They weren't. We're not hearing about this as a big lawsuit. We're not hearing about this as a big struggle of power. People just went to the next annual meeting, and they did what is their right as a homeowner. they voted someone out
That's
of
right.
office.
That's right. That's a great example, isn't it?
Yes.
Of the process working as it should.
It is working as it should. Exactly. Yeah. So our hats off to Knobley Estates and what they did. And this should be an example for others that are on a board. You have a responsibility. You need to make sure that even though you don't think you may be intimidating, as an individual, you need to make sure that you go out of your way to make sure that you ask and encourage feedback from homeowners so that you can manage the property responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's all the time we're going to give on this story. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, Tony, I think you've got some things on an update for landlords that have been taking place with
on the city level.
City level with City Minneapolis. More with that after these messages.